Tributes abounding for the iconically bold Japanese contemporary artist Yayoi Kusama. She quit her native Japan to strike out on her own in New York City back in the 1950s. She's passed away in Tokyo at the age of 97. Culture editor Eve Jackson is here for more. Kusama, an icon of contemporary art.
An utter icon, Francois. She was known for creating extraordinary immersive worlds around the world that delighted millions of people. Parisians might remember her actually for her installation at the Louis Vuitton shop on the Champs-Élysées. She covered it in multicolored dots alongside a life-size giant sculpture of herself. Now, she was collaborating with the luxury brand at the time to make a collection of clothing and accessories. There was also her life-like robot in Paris's Place Vendôme, and that sent social media into a frenzy. Let's hear from her in this interview from 2017.
I will fight until I'm dead. Even after my death, I hope that people can understand the purpose of my creations, as well as my hope and passion for art.
So you got these bold polka dots and this unassuming, modest woman.
Well, Kusama, she was born in Japan. She had an extraordinary story behind her life. She was born in 1929 and she started drawing dots when she was only 10 years old. Now, she was having hallucinations at the time and saw patterns across walls, across ceilings, even across her own body. But rather than trying to escape these visions, she transformed them into this art that we can see. She also had the recurring sensation of disappearing into flowers in her parents' fields. That's an experience that she later recreated for millions around the world with the same motives. Now, beyond these hallucinations, she talks about a very difficult family life. Her mum actually asked her to spy on her father, who she suspected of having affairs. She talked about in interviews how she found that deeply traumatic. So she actually moved to New York in the 1950s because her family did not support her art ambitions and she cut ties with them.
So she sublimates her mental struggles and in many ways she was radical in that sense.
She certainly was, especially in New York. She was in this very male-dominated art world and she really struggled to be taken seriously, especially as a Japanese woman. It took 5 whole years until a gallery finally agreed to show one of her works. Her first installation was a giant boat covered in soft phallic forms resembling male sexual organs. Now, then in 1966, she made a splash at the Venice Biennale. She installed hundreds of reflected metal balls outside the Italian pavilion and she sold them for $2 each. It was her way of kind of putting her finger up, I guess, to the art world and taking it off its pedestal. They actually asked her to stop selling them because they found it quite demeaning. It took until 1989, so years later, when she had to have a massive retrospective where they took her seriously and she was properly recognised. Something interesting, though, is from 1977, she chose to live voluntarily in a psychiatric ward in Japan, a psychiatric hospital. She had a studio across the road. She continued to paint and create obsessively, and then eventually she did become one of the best-selling, one of the most loved female contemporary artists in the world. And those dots that once haunted her have now become these bright, joyful symbols recognised across the world.